Mikael is quite fine. I don't sound like Barry White, but quite a lot of people say I look like him. All right, I've been asked to talk to you for about 5 minutes about, I was asked to answer this question. What is required to create a sustainable and competitive seafood industry in remote rural areas based on local raw material? So 5 minutes is a bit short. What I'll do, I've identified 4 factors, and I'll try to illustrate them with examples from my own company. And my company is called Royal Greenland. We've been around since 1774 in one shape or the other. We are 100% owned by the Greenlandic self-rule government. We have revenues of about 750 million euros, which makes us one of the bigger companies in a very fragmented worldwide industry. We have a profit level of about 5%, not best in class, but reasonable. We employ about 2,000 people worldwide, of which 1,400 full-time equivalents work in Greenland, and about 350 in Canada. And behind each of these numbers hides actually twice the number of people because there's a lot of seasonality in our business. We operate a fleet of offshore factory trawlers, mostly in Greenland, but also to some extent in Norway. And then we operate, and this is where it becomes interesting, 39 factories in Greenland and 6 factories in Newfoundland and Quebec. And these are the remote rural areas we're talking about. So what does it take to create a sustained and competitive industry on the basis of that? Well, number one, it takes a sustainable fishery. And I think many people, the word sustainable is hugely misused. In the case of fishery, it's actually created as a word that signifies how do we get the most food for human beings. And this is maximum sustainable yield and so on. And there's a quite solid science behind it. So to have a sustainable industry, you need solid science, you need rule of law, and you need enforcement capabilities to enforce that people actually follow the law. And then you need, and this is quite important in certain areas, you need a common understanding amongst politicians, people in industry, that it actually makes commercial sense to have a sustainable fishery. And in the case of Greenland, our major fisheries are now not just sustainable, but actually certified as such. And this was driven very much by industry, because sometimes, and that's not the case in Greenland, but could be other places, we actually have a longer time horizon than politicians who need to get elected every 4 years. Number 2, you need a commercial approach. You cannot just say, well, I'm from a remote rural area and I will act as such in the marketplace. You go back 35 years and less fish was eaten in China than what is eaten in Europe. Now, today in China, more fish is eaten, more seafood is eaten than in all of Europe, North America, South America, and Japan combined. All right, we've increased during the last 5 years our share of sales into Asia from 12% to now almost 30%. And that takes an organization of a certain size. So you can't just be 2 guys with a bucket full of oysters and say, they're from the Arctic, they're going to sell themselves at a really attractive price. You need a certain size to operate. You need an ambition level. Say, even if we come from a remote area in the Arctic, we need to think like Nestlé or Unilever or Mars. So if you're a small company, you need to work together with other small companies to actually act big in the marketplace. The third thing, I'm not going to say a lot about that, but obviously you need some infrastructure in terms of water, energy, harbors, transportation. We produce, in even the smallest place with less than 100 people who live in the settlement, we produce to European Union hygiene standards and food safety standards. And that requires an infrastructure that needs to be put in place by government. So if some of you who represent very wealthy nations would like to contribute to the Greenlandic infrastructure, there's ample opportunities we could point to. The last thing you need, and this is very important, is that you need an understanding that the word value is not just about, in our case, kroner or øre, but in certain people, it's a question of pounds or dollars. But it's also about the value you create in the society. And people, it would be easy, and many NGOs try to make us believe that as long as you do good, you also automatically make more money. And that's not true. Obviously, I mean, sometimes there are trade-offs that you need to make. But the value you create in a country is also the number of jobs you actually have. And as I said, we got about 1,400 full-time equivalents in Greenland. That's about 3,000 people who fill these jobs. In addition, we provide services to more than 2,000 little fishermen. That's 5,000 people or 5,000 families in total. And the population in Greenland is 55,000 people. So now I sound like Barry White also. We have a huge impact on society. And one of the ways that you actually create this sustainable industry is by making sure that the people you hire to run the companies and the people they hire and the people they hire are people who are able to combine different concepts of value at the same time. Thank you.